Before we begin, we want to acknowledge that some stories and discussions in this episode of Radiant Resilience may touch on sensitive and potentially triggering topics. These may include themes of discussions of low self-esteem and self-worth, mental health struggles, including depression, challenges with family expectations and career pressures, and mentions of childhood poverty and food insecurity. Our goal is to share real-life experiences in a respectful and empathetic manner, offering insights into the complexities of the human spirit and the journey towards resilience. However, we understand that some content might be difficult for listeners. We encourage you to prioritize your well-being and discretion when deciding to listen. Please remember this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice or support. If you find yourself needing assistance, we urge you to seek help from qualified professionals or trusted support systems. Your mental and emotional health is important to us. Thank you for your courage and for joining us in a space of understanding and compassion. Welcome back, everyone, to Radiant Resilience. I am here with a very special guest today. Her name is Jessica Adebiyi. Jessica is an inspirational leader, Mrs. United World 2025, and the driving force behind Royalty Houston, a nonprofit that empowers and uplifts underrepresented youth and women. A first-generation college graduate and young mom, Jessica's personal journey of self-discovery began in a small town in Louisiana where she defied the odds and made her own opportunities despite limited guidance and mentorship. Through her tenacity and self-motivation, she has transformed her experiences into a powerful platform as a motivational speaker, mentor, and dream builder. Passionate about women's empowerment and creating space for others to thrive, Jessica leverages her career as a diversity and professional development manager and her nonprofit to provide resources and support that help others unlock their full potential and build the lives of their dreams. Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much for coming. How are you?
I'm well. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to hear your story. Why don't you go ahead and start from wherever you'd like to start, and then we'll just talk and see where we go here. I am so excited to hear more about all of your things.
Yeah, I know. I have a bunch of things, right? But I try my best to balance them all as best I can. So starting off, as you read, I am from Louisiana originally. I live in Houston now. I've been through the East Coast, and then I made my way to Houston. I've been in Houston for 10 years. So I guess this is home now. However, I was born and raised in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I'm not sure if you've heard of that. Most people haven't.
I think really I've only heard of Baton Rouge and New Orleans.
Yeah, I was gonna say everyone says New Orleans, right? That's the big party city and things like that. But Shreveport now, like they're trying to get some things going there. It's very like old school. It's very like poor, but things are starting to move a little bit better. I was just home a couple weeks ago, and I usually go there and I try to give back to the communities that I grew up in, like the community centers. I do talks and things like that, because that's really who shaped me, right, to be the person I am. So I always like to go back and, you know, show the kids that although we're from this area, that doesn't mean that this is going to be it for you. And that really goes into my platform too, for Royalty Houston and for being Mrs. United World, because that's what I had to do for myself. Like growing up, I always knew, like, I'm in this small town. I knew that there was more out there. I knew that there was bigger cities out there. I knew there was more. Couldn't see it in front of me in my everyday life. And that's no knock to any of the folks from my hometown. They're all amazing, humble people. If you go there, it's all of that Southern hospitality that you hear about. It's definitely there. It's not like Houston, where Houston is now like, it's Southern, right? Because it's in Texas, but it's so big city now. Sometimes you get those, but back in Louisiana, you still have that humble like beginnings, and it's really nice. And even me coming back home, I get so much love there because I'm sure it's great to see that someone who's quote unquote made it or that kind of a thing. So it's really great. So anyway, going back home, I'm always advocating and talking to kids and just showing them like how you can dream big beyond what you see currently and use that as your self-motivation to do the things that you want to do in life and to set goals and to actually reach those goals.
Mm, I love that. That's great. So you still have family there then, I'm assuming.
Yes, I do. My mom is still there. Like she bought her house years ago and I'm not leaving. This is my house.
Mhm. Yeah.
So she's pretty old school, but she visits me and my family a lot. And then I have like cousins there and aunts and uncles and things like that too. All older though. A lot of the like my cousins that are my age, we've all kind of grown up and moved away, but the older folks are still there and it's always good to see them though.
Yeah, very nice. So you grew up there. Tell us a little bit about growing up there.
Yeah, like I said, it was a pretty small town, but I was always really active in anything that I could be a part of. There were like little small like modeling schools and things like
Mhm.
that. There was this one, I should even check to see if he's still around. It was Michael Tawny Agency. And that's when I really got a glimpse into, oh my gosh, there's other stuff besides wanting to be a farmer. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it's true because that was like that's the careers that you pick. It's agriculture, it's those type of things. And I never thought that was I could see myself in that. I was like, there's something else. It's got to be something else. I would do like modeling on weekends. And so we would do like at Dillard's, we would do like little mall fashion shows and things
Fun.
like that. Yeah. And so that really opened my eyes to know that there's more beyond the city. There's more out there that I can do, exposure. And so that really opened my eyes to like the glitz and the glamour and that kind of a thing. And so I've always wanted to be someone that was, I don't want to say in front of the audience, but really just like speaking hope into others because
Mm.
that's what really got me to where I am. Michael Turney, I feel like he was a really big part of my journey as far as like growing up. He would always speak life into me and things like that. Growing up, I had really low self-esteem,
Mm.
just comparing myself to other people, not thinking that I was like pretty enough or good enough or tall enough even because I'm pretty petite. 5'2".
Oh
And even
yeah.
it's just like you got to be really tall. And so I just never felt, okay, I like this world. Maybe it's not the world for me. And then so from there, I lost track of wanting to do like modeling and those sort of things because I just didn't feel like I fit the mold.
Mm.
And so I just thought if I was really smart and if I studied really a lot, if I got into a good college, then that was like my way out. And then I can use my brain because I don't have the looks, so I could use my brain. So that was like my thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I did that. I worked really hard at school. I got really good grades. Actually decided to go to HBCU. So that's like a historically Black college. I chose to go far away to Maryland.
Oh
So
wow.
at Morgan State in Maryland. And then even there, like I was going to school actually to do engineering.
Okay.
And I picked it really just because I'm like, I can make good money, I can be successful. That's what I wanted to do, but it wasn't really like my passion. So anyway, I started doing that. And then, but all through college, I felt something else calling me, like whether it was like creative arts, it was marketing, it was those sorts of things. And so I always find myself in those communities while I was in Baltimore as well. Again, like giving back, doing things in the arts, whether it was modeling, where it was acting, where it was creating something. I
Mm-hmm.
always say like it was one of my interview questions for the pageant was like, what sets you apart? And mine was my creativity because I've always been someone who's been able to create something out of nothing. I'm an ideas person. So I did a lot of that while I was in college, just like extracurricular things. And then I found myself saying, I'm taking all these classes and doing these things, but I know I'm not going to be happy doing this.
Mm.
And so I had to really think about as a person, when I go home at night and it's just me, am I going to be happy? Am I doing this because I'm trying to prove something? And I'm trying to prove, oh, I got here and I got to be successful. I got to make all this money and I'm hating my job. I'm hating my life.
And
Yeah.
that was while you were in college, you were having all of those thoughts. So
Yes.
you're like, that's from like 18 to 22, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that is really early to be having those thoughts because how many people in the world we live in right now end up in those jobs that they absolutely hate and they're just
Yeah.
like, but this is what I have to do to make money to support my family and
Right.
I don't deserve the dream job because it doesn't make enough or whatever.
Right.
That's pretty incredible that you were having those thoughts at such an early age.
Well, yeah, and a lot of it stemmed from just like mental health, right? I was working so hard at school, but like struggling mentally because I wasn't happy. I would rather, and this may sound bad now, but it doesn't discourage anyone, but all these math and sciences. I'd rather be creating something or
Mm.
being able to think creatively and do something that way. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't make money that way. I can't do that. I watched my mom struggle. I can't allow her to keep struggling. There's got to be something more. I gotta be able to help, that kind of a mindset. And it really affected me mentally a lot. I went through a really bad depression. I wasn't sure. So I ended up actually staying in college longer than I was supposed to. It was longer than the 4 years because I did switch my major a couple of times. I was struggling mentally with making the right decisions. And then a lot of that was, okay, who am I trying to make happy? Although I thought about like my mom, I thought about even like my city where I came from. I want to make everybody proud. I want to do all these things, but then you forget about yourself in it.
Mm.
And I really struggled with that. So yeah, at a young age, but I think going through the mental struggles of crying at night, those kind of things, I had to get it together. I had to figure out, Jessica, what's going on. I didn't have money for programs that we have now, therapies and things like that. I just did a lot of reading. Even back then, I watched a lot of podcasts and reading and just wondering, you see your role models and like, how did they get to be that way and be that successful and be okay, like mentally, because your mindset is everything. And that's what drives you to be able to accomplish things and get things done. And then at the end of the day, be able to woosah and just settle down. And so I had to really start focusing on my mental health. And once I was able to do that, really helped me to overcome and see, okay, what is it that you really want to accomplish out of life that's going to make you happy? It doesn't matter how much you're going to make. It doesn't matter all of these things, who's watching, what people are going to say, what's going to make you happy. You're going to be able to live with yourself. And so for me, that became like marketing and giving back and those kind of things. And so that's what I ended up doing. So I ended up getting a business degree and then also went into actually doing professional development marketing for a law firm. And then from there, I got into the diversity space. So now I am a diversity director for a law firm and actually love what I do. It's a lot of passion there. And although I'm not like a lawyer or engineer, those sort of things, I feel like I'm still doing my part to help folks and marginalized communities to reach those goals if that's what they want, right? Because there's a lot of things that can hold people back, a lot of barriers and things like that. So in a day work, I get to make a difference. And I know that's what I was put here to do.
Hi, friend, and welcome to this episode of Radiant Resilience. We are always looking for new guests on the podcast. I want to highlight you if you have a story of resilience that inspires others. Everyone has a story, and I believe that sharing yours can help others feel less alone. Are you ready to share your journey and inspire others? I want to hear from you. Every story has the power to impact lives and foster a supportive community. If you have a tale of overcoming adversity, personal growth, or a unique perspective on life's challenges, I would love to have you as a guest on the podcast. To become a guest, please email us directly at radientresiliencepodcast@gmail.com or click the link in the show notes to become a guest. Join us in spreading hope, strength, and inspiration one story at a time. Be brave and share your story so others feel less alone. I hope to see you soon. I love that. That's so great. I'm glad that you were able to get to that point of realizing all of that. And so I'm assuming because were you in school a little bit longer because you changed your major then?
I changed my major and I also took mental health breaks.
Oh yeah.
I am a big advocate for that. As a professional, I have taken one in work because sometimes work can get overwhelming, even though how much I love it. You have to learn how to take time for yourself. You have to learn how to say no sometimes. And those key things have really helped me to be the woman that I am. And I'm still learning to even make those adjustments as I go. Yeah. But yeah, those are reasons. But ultimately, I finished. And one thing that I always tell my kids too, so I'm the type of parent where I want them to see, so I normalize apologizing to my kids. I don't know. I mean, I may get some backlash, but I do because I'm human and we make mistakes. And this is my first time like being a mom and I've never parented a 12-year-old before. This is my first go around. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. How it goes. I don't know all the right things to say. So if I find myself saying something where in my childhood, I got scarred a lot from things that my parents and people said and them not knowing. It all due respect, they just didn't know. And so sometimes you lash out and you say things and it does hurt your kids and it scars them. And sometimes you hold on to those things. And those are things that I've held on to growing up. And I always knew becoming a parent, I didn't want to do that to my kids. I or try my best not to. And if I make a mistake, I want to own up to my mistakes because I want to show them that as human, we're not perfect. And sometimes everything isn't going to go like plan A. There's plan B, there's plan C, there's plan D, just as long as you stay committed to something and you finish it. And so with me completing college late, at least I finished. I got to the finish line. And so anyway, so that story was just to say how transparent I am when it comes to, okay, it may took you 4 years. It took me 6. Yeah. It's okay. And I tell my kids that sometimes your journey isn't going to look like someone else's. You know, we're all different. We all have our own stories. We all have our own struggles. You have to take time with yourself and slowly just work at your pace. And that's okay.
Yeah. I love that. College is such a controversial thing nowadays too, right? Going to university. There was a time where that's all you did, right? You graduate high school, you go to college if you can, and then you graduate college and you get a corporate job and you get married and you have a family, and it was
exactly.
And nowadays, I think that the perspective on university is definitely changing. And I knew so many people that took 5, 6, 7 years to get through college, and they definitely change their majors, change their minds, but how can we possibly expect an 18-year-old to know exactly what they want to do with the rest of their lives?
Yeah, I always say that. I totally agree. Yeah.
It's crazy. I think that's such a pivotal moment in people's lives, that like 18 to 22 or 25 even range of trying to find yourself and who you want to be, because you're like kind of an adult, but not really an adult. You're not really supporting yourself just yet, but you're on your own. It's such a confusing time period for people. So it sounds like it was pretty pivotal for you.
Yeah. And all of those things, and you know, what you just said about being 18, not really knowing. And then going back to just my journey, I didn't have like mentors. I didn't have people that were in certain careers who could tell me or give me insights to help me navigate. And a lot of students, they have that too. They struggle with that. And that actually is what kind of made me start my nonprofit. And that's my platform for Mrs. United World, because I know how it feels to not have representation. And I also know how it is not to have a mentor, not to have guidance, and to really just be out there figuring it out. And it's a lot for an 18-year-old. Do you know? It does a lot for you mentally. And then just to think about having to just make those decisions now, because you're graduating, you got to select the major, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. It's a lot for someone. And so a lot of the programming that I do is exposure, because growing up, I didn't have a lot of exposure to like careers out there. A good point of that is even when I moved to Houston, I would start working at a staffing agency. I went there really to get a job. So I was like, okay, maybe they can help me send my resume out, that kind of a thing. But then they ended up hiring me internally because they liked my interview and they're like, oh my gosh, like your personality. We think you'd be really good at this. Do you want to try like recruiting? So I did that for a bit. But the thing was, on my desk, all of these interesting career paths were coming through that I've never been exposed to.
Wow.
Because I didn't know about all the ends, even like HR departments, like all of these things. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's someone who does this, there's someone who does that. And I think that if we start in the schools early, especially for kids like me who didn't have that kind of a exposure, it's good. It helps them be able to shape what they want to do. It helps make the decision a little easier for them. So that's one of the programs that we do as well. We go into schools and we expose them to different careers, and we have professionals come in. We do like speed mentoring where they talk about, hey, this is what I do at Bank of America. These are the type of things that you could do. And I did it, and you have the opportunity to do it too. Because that was another thing. Growing up, I didn't see folks that looked like me and really amazing careers that they liked and just being successful. And as a young person, you've got to see that.
Yeah. To know it's possible.
To know it's possible. It's that like the physical manifestation of your dreams, right? You've got to be able to, wow, yeah, I can do that too. I can see myself in that person, so to speak.
Yeah. I love that. So were you doing any like modeling or pageants or any of that while you were in college, or was that all after?
So I did a couple in college, actually. Like I was telling you, especially those first couple of years, I would be drawn to like the artsy stuff. Like I was probably studying for an exam, like looking out of my window. Oh my gosh, I want to be doing what they're doing. I want to go out there. And so, yeah, I actually did. I did this, that's called Miss Black and Gold. It was a pageant for one of the fraternities on campus. They had their queen. And so
Fun.
I did that one. I didn't win, but it was just a really fun process. And I liked it. And then younger, I did some like little pageants here and there in the community, Strawberry Festival,
Oh,
Mrs.
fun.
Little Miss Pickle Festival, things like that.
I love that.
And those are the only kind of exposures I had it until I got to an adult. Going up to this point, I was actually on Facebook and I saw one of my old college friends post that she had won a pageant. It was like a local preliminary into Miss Earth. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. She's going up for Miss Earth. Like, how do you get to do that? And so I'm the type where whether you're going to gatekeep or not, I'm going to ask questions.
Yeah.
So I asked her, I'm like, oh my gosh, tell me about this. What are you doing? This is so cool. I would love to do this. And so
Yeah.
she was really nice and told me all about the system that she was doing. And I really just thought to myself, wow, if she could do it, maybe I can. But I struggle with imposter syndrome sometimes. So I'm like, maybe I can't. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it took me a while to get there, but I decided to just give it a shot and just see what happens. The worst thing can happen is just not win. It's okay. And so I decided to do it. And so 2 years later, I'm Mrs. United World.
That's amazing. So where did what did you start with? Did you start with Mrs. United World and just do it a couple years in a row? Or did you start with other pageants and then eventually got into that one? I have no idea what this process is like. So
I started from the system that my friend told me about. I'm not going to name it because I
okay.
did do some research and it ended up not being a fit for me.
Okay.
But another friend that I knew who was in pageantry too, I was like asking her about this. Hey, I think that you do this type of a thing. What do you think about this pageant system? And then, so she actually put me on to Mrs. United World. So I've had a history of, I've had a history of not having the best relationships when it comes to women, right? Like as
Okay.
far as being in groups of women. I've
Okay.
always, like I think I mentioned earlier, I had low self-esteem, things like that. And I don't know, it's almost some women can smell that you don't feel good about yourself and use it against you. And I've always been in situations where it was like cattiness or just excluding
Mm.
me or just, I just never really fit in with a group of women. Although I've always wanted to. I've always been a
Mm.
girl's girl. I've always wanted to have the best friends and we go do girl trips and just that kind of a thing. I thought it was really beautiful, sisterhood. I have one older sister, so it's just a small family. And I've always wanted a big group of girls, but I've never had that before.
Mm.
And when I was talking to her about it, what really resonated with me was the fact that she was saying how this system isn't like that. It's not cattiness. It's all about positive pageantry and about uplifting women. And the motto is United We Stand. So the director is all about women coming together. She stands on the fact that you can do more with others than you can do by yourself. And I
Mm.
totally believe that's so true because we cannot carry the whole world on our shoulders as much as we try to. Everyone has a different skill set, everyone has a different talent. And when we come together, it just really makes a great outcome together, right? Because everyone's doing their part. And
Yeah.
so that's something that really resonated with me. And I'm like, wow, that's true. I would love to go at this. And so that's something that really stood out to me because I was looking for a sisterhood because I hadn't experienced
Mm.
that. I've always been around like the mean girls, that kind of a thing, how us women can be. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I'm a hairdresser, so like
Yeah.
working in the salons over the years and stuff,
Yes.
it's hard. And
Yeah.
even in high school, girls are just mean. Like I tell my
Yes.
husband that all the time. I'm like, girls and women, we're mean. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm like, no, really. Like I had a lot of guy friends in high school because
Yeah.
I didn't want to deal with the drama with women. But I'm sad that you didn't have that for very long. So I'm glad that you were able to
Yeah.
find that in this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for like most of my life, actually, even going into professional life, you'd be surprised. Like women act that way in offices, like not inviting you to lunch. And it was really hurtful because you look at yourself, like, am I doing something? Is it me? And because I'm that type of person, like I am very open. If I'm making a mistake or if I said something that came off wrong, please tell me because
Yeah.
I have good intentions, and I don't want folks to feel bad about something I said or misunderstand me. So I'm always like, please tell me. So that way I can correct it. So I didn't know if it was something I was doing wrong or what it was, but I had to learn how to navigate that. For me, it was killing them with kindness. I know that sounds very like a cliche, but that's what worked. I, I have to continue to be me and not let what other people feel or their actions change me as a person, because
Yeah.
I was built this way for a reason. My
Mm.
personality is this way for a reason. My journey, I've been through the ups and the downs, the challenges, the triumphs, the hard days. It built me into this person I am. And I cannot allow someone else's actions to make all of that go in vain and change me into a person that, again, I'm not going to be
Mm.
happy with.
Yeah.
I'm really big on being happy with me and loving myself. And I know that if I would have changed just to fit in at my big age, trying to fit in with these women, I wouldn't have been happy with me. And that would have again
Mm.
affected my mental. And I couldn't go down that road. And I had to just look myself in the mirror and say, Jessica, I love myself. I
Mm.
love what I bring to the table, and I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to still love them. I'm going to still be kind. I'm going to invite them to lunches if I plan something, and maybe eventually they'll come around. If not, that's fine.
Oh,
And
I love
eventually that happened. One of the girls at work, we ended up start working better together. She was,
Oh.
yeah, like she used to, I had just started working at this office, and she I needed her to get my job done. Like she had a lot of information. So my supervisor a lot would be like, work with Susie Q. She keeps the data for this. She's gonna be able to help you work with Susie Q. I would try to set up a meeting like, hi, let's get together and have coffee and talk about XYZ. She would literally cancel the meetings.
Oh my
Like no
gosh.
explanation. And then a couple of times she even told my supervisor, I'm not sure why Jessica wants to meet with me. I don't really need to talk to her. I'm like, she's telling us that we need to work together. Like you, and it turned out later that she thought that I was like trying to take her job or something, because our jobs intertwined so much. Like she keeps certain data, and so I needed the data to do my job as in diversity. So I need to be able to see how many people we have, like LGBTQ, women, like all these different things. And she kept it, and she made it really hard for me to do my job at times. And then my manager wasn't very supportive, because I would also tell her, and then she'd be like, oh, well, you guys are adults, you got to work that out. And
Isn't that the point of being a manager, though? Is you're supposed to help lead and guide and manage.
right. Yeah, manage the situation for me, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, she wouldn't, and she would say things like that. You guys are adults, figure it out. She doesn't understand why you want to meet with her, so you got to talk to her about it. Tell her what you need from her. I'm like, I'm driving here. And so the first year working there was really difficult. But I was just continuing to be nice to her and to show her that we're a team, and to let her know that I'm not there to take anything from you. I want to work with you. I think that we can be a great team. And if I would see her like struggling or something, I would get information for, hey, I saw this. Here you go. Like I thought you could use that. And so
Oh,
I think that kind of helped warm her up to maybe, okay, she's okay. And
yeah.
so we're okay now.
Oh, good.
So yeah, so had to navigate some of that too.
It's so hard. It really is. Like I said, I've worked in salons I've been doing hair for 20 years now, and it's tough. And girls, we had a little situation not too long ago where there was a lot of talking behind people's backs and
Oh my
gossiping and things
gosh.
like that. And
Yeah.
it was like a mean girl situation. And I was like, I hate everything about this, but what am I
Yes.
supposed to do? I don't want to leave the place that I'm at, but
Yeah.
it was difficult. And then I decided to take the road you were I was like, you know what? Fine, whatever. They can say whatever they want. They can gossip about whatever they want. I'm just going to go into work and be nice to everyone. That's what I'm going
Yes.
to do. And you know what? And I'm not going to hang out with them outside of the salon or
Yeah.
whatever. That's fine. We don't need to be friends, but we do need to work together and be a team and be good while we're there,
Yeah.
to not make the other people's lives miserable too around. So anyway, so I took that same stance. So I love hearing that you did that and it worked for you too. So
Yeah, for sure. I think that especially with the younger generation, because bullying and mean girls and things, it isn't
Mhm.
going to go away. It's all the same stories, it's just different players.
And
And so
it'll change with the times too, right?
yeah,
'Cause now we have like social media bullying where we didn't have that when I was in high school and stuff. So,
right, same.
hmm
Yeah, so it definitely changed in like to different levels. And
yeah.
so it is the simple things like that. I guess the old school tactics is just be nice and remain authentic and just being
Mm.
yourself. That's something that I always tell girls when I go to schools and things like that, is just your superpower is you. You know, that's what
I
makes your
love
superpower, you
that.
know? So I have these little mirrors. I wish I had one so I can show you. And it says your reflection is your superpower. And it just reminds girls that when you look in the mirror, who you are, that is your power to this world. There's a reason why you are who you are. Like step in
Yes.
that, be okay, and just be authentically yourself in every situation, even the hard ones, because there's a reason why you were put in that situation, right? Like you're built for this, whether you know it or not. Yeah.
That's so hard to do though. As adults, like it's taken me a really long time and I have moments where I'm not able to do that. So what do you tell them if you do meet a girl that's stuck in not believing that and not being able to and not being able to get out of that rut? What advice would you give to a young girl or an adult that's
Yeah.
listening
So
to
yeah,
that?
I have moments too, trust me. And so what really helps me is like self-talk and
Mm,
affirmations and things like
mm.
that. I do a lot of mirror work, and that even goes with that program with the mirrors. So we get handheld mirrors and I have the girls write things about themselves, like, you know, what they love themselves, things that they can say back to themselves, especially in those hard situations like that, so that they can remember that your reflection is your superpower. And these are the words and these are the reasons why.
I
And
love
sometimes it
that.
takes practice, because you're right, that isn't something that is natural to us, because we don't want to be put in those situations. Especially if you're like a naturally like nice person, you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't like confrontation. I personally, I hate confrontation. I do not
Same.
like those uncomfortable things. And
Mhm.
so it is hard sometimes. And so it does take practice to just remain in yourself, and you have to talk to yourself. I used to have on my phone, there's an app that has affirmations. And so throughout the day, it would just send me affirmations and I repeat them and I would say them. Because when you
Mm.
speak things out and you manifest them, they do become your reality and you will start to believe it. So that's what I say to girls, and that's even what I do for myself. And that really helps me in those situations too.
Yeah, self-talk is so huge.
Yeah.
But it's so hard. I think it's so hard to self-talk positive. So many people, I think we're always really hard on ourselves. And
Yeah.
then I call myself a recovering people pleaser. But and I think it's so easy to sacrifice yourself in being a people pleaser and also I don't know. It's just so easy to sacrifice yourself and then to talk down to yourself in certain situations. And it's a huge struggle that I'm sure so many people listening to this and women especially are struggling with. I'm glad that you're working on that with the young kids at least, so we can maybe the
Yeah.
next generation can be a little bit better about that with themselves.
Yeah, for sure. And all of that stems from it goes to our mental health, right? And
Mm.
another thing that really helps, I don't know if you do this, is journaling, like
Sometimes, yeah.
putting out my thoughts on paper. Sometimes I just have to get it all out, even if I'm going to be bawling while I'm like writing it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to get those emotions out, because that's how we express ourselves. You cannot keep that trapped in, because it would literally make you go crazy and become someone that you don't want to be. So it's good to write things down, to really meditate, take time for yourself, to woosah. Self-care is really good. That's something that I always do something for me, because like you said, the people pleaser thing, like I still struggle with that today, just trying to make everyone around me happy. And then even in my nonprofit and being Mrs. United, where I'm constantly pouring into people, but I realized I have to pour back into myself too. Like you've got to. And I know that some of us, a lot of people haven't gotten to that point, but that's good that we have podcasts like this so they can hear us saying these things and they have tips and things to go to. So that's really what I would advise. And that's what I do. And it works for me. Even if it's once a month, carve out time for yourself. If it's like a self retreat, whatever you want to call it, meditate, journal, remind yourself who you are. If you're spiritual, pray, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Get back to you to settle down. Me and my sister talk about that a lot, because we're both wife moms doing different things. And it's just, you will lose yourself sometimes in all of that. And that's a part of people pleasing too, being a mom, because you're trying to please these kids, right? You make sure, you know,
Yeah.
one's crying about chicken nuggets and the other one's crying about mac and cheese. We're
Yeah.
trying to, okay, we're having mashed potatoes, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So yeah, all of it. And then sometimes just as women, we often are like the last to be thanked. You know what I mean? That is always
Yeah.
superstar. Right? So we've got to know that we're the superstar too, and just give
Yeah.
yourself that. And it is hard to remember. I know that, and I feel that from the depths of my soul. It is hard, but it takes work. One thing that I've learned, even like this pageantry journey has taught me, is that you have to be comfortable getting uncomfortable,
Mm.
because being uncomfortable, it does what? It helps you to grow. It helps you to push those limits, to reach more heights and things like that. And sometimes doing the self-talk, doing the self-care things, taking time for yourself to get your mental together, it is hard and it's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning. Especially if it's something you're not new to, it's new to you, right? Like it's going to sound very foreign. It's going to be like, this is so weird. Like I'm talking to myself in a mirror. Like, what am I doing? The more you do it, you'll see the power in it and it'll get
Mhm.
easier. And so in the beginning, it will be uncomfortable, but it's going to be for the best outcome. So get comfortable being uncomfortable for sure.
I
That's how you grow.
love that. That's so important because that's when growth happens, right?
Yes, that is definitely
Mhm.
where growth happens. I forget the name of the person, the motivational speaker. Maybe it was Steve Harvey. He has some good ones. I don't know out there if you guys are listening. He has some really good like snippets of like motivational things. So I listen to that too a lot. Like driving, I like to listen to like motivational talks, like in
Mm.
short form though.
Okay.
And he said that he was either him or someone. He was saying like how success is outside of comfort. That's how
Yeah.
you're really gonna reach because it teaches you so much in that. If you think about even me, just thinking about everything that I've gone through, the challenges, that's where I grew the most.
Mm.
Yeah. So I embrace it really. Like a lot of times, especially in pageants, they ask questions like that. Okay, what's one thing you regret? There's one thing you can change. And I know it probably sounds like, oh, cliche, but really I would never want to change anything
Mm.
because
Yeah.
I've learned something from every situation. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy about that. I would not be the woman that you're talking to right now if I hadn't gone through all the things that I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a recurring theme for a while when I first started doing these interviews on my podcast is I
Yeah.
would ask people like, okay, now you've shared this whole story. Would you go back and change any of it? And of course, if a loved one died or like things like
Yeah.
that, there are aspects that people like I'd rather have my grandpa around or whatever.
Sure.
But for the most part, everybody was like, no, I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
Like it because it did create who you are and mold you, and you're a better person for it usually, which is sucky that we have to go through
I
hard things
know.
to grow and become better
Oh
people. Like
my gosh.
why?
I know.
But
Like, is there a different way
yeah,
for this?
yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Let's go back to your pageant stuff.
Okay.
So you did you say that you had done the Mrs. United World a couple times then?
Oh yeah, I'm so
Okay.
sorry. I get off track
No
sometimes.
worries. No, that was a great tangent. That was a
Yeah.
great way. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love it.
So after I decided that United World is the place I want it to be. So yeah, I this is the first system as a professional pageantry that I've competed in. And I did it for a couple of years. The first year, actually, another interesting story, I had broken my foot in two places.
Oh
So
no.
I ended up competing in a boot.
Oh wow.
Yeah, wasn't going to. I was that really took a lot to do that. It's already a lot. Think about it to have to get in front of an audience, you know what I mean, to speak, to
Yeah.
model, to do all these different things, to even interview. The interview process, it's you and you have 8 people right in front of you, grilling you, asking you questions. And then think about it, you're up against all of these beautiful women. They're all doing amazing things in their community. They have so much to offer. Either one of us could have been Mrs. United World and rocked it. So it's wow. I felt like if I go and I'm in a boot, would I be able to perform my best self? Would
Mm.
I be able to give it my all? Would my mental be okay? All of those things. And for a while, I was thinking no, so I wasn't going to do it. And I had to do some soul searching. I had to pray. I had to really think about it and see, but where should I do this? I eventually decided to go ahead and compete in a boot.
Okay.
And my mindset in that was, and I don't know, this may be self-sabotage, I don't know, but I was like, I'm not thinking about winning. I'm just thinking about what else can I get from this? Because even if you win, the crown is one thing, but what are you going to do with the crown? What else are you
Mm.
learning from the experience? And so
Yeah.
I thought about it that way. So I just took the crown part out of it, took the winning out of it, and was like, okay, what else can you get from this? And so I realized I'm getting the sisterhood that I always wanted because that was the main point of me doing this, right? It was
Yeah.
building a sisterhood, getting like-minded women and having, and which I have. I have a great sisterhood of sisters now that I can call for anything. And some go to my son's birthdays and things like that. I
Love
really
that.
got what I really sought after, right? And it wasn't the first year, it wasn't the crown. It was the sisterhood. It was the unity amongst women and being a part of something incredible like that. Having
Yeah.
a platform for my nonprofit, right? Because it really helped me build my nonprofit. I got to go in front of schools and different things like that. And so I got a lot more out of it. And before I decided to compete, I was thinking about those things, like what else can I get out of it? Once I laid that out, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for it. So I did. I ended up coming up fourth, even in a boot. Because
Amazing.
I showed up totally as myself and I was confident in just being myself, even rocking a boot. And so it worked out for me, I think. Although I didn't win the crown, I still won sisters. I still won an amazing platform. I still got an opportunity of a lifetime. And I got to get out of my comfort zone and do something that I normally wouldn't. Because honestly, although I'm talking a bunch now, I'm really an extrovert, introvert. That's it. I stay to myself.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm really a shy person at my core. And so for me to step out and do something like that, it was really different for me and it helped me a whole lot. And that's what really pushed me to go ahead and compete last year. And then I had such a great time. When I say that these women like were so supportive, I had a boot on, but I really didn't feel like say the handicapped one I felt like a part of the group and they made every effort to make me feel that way. And all of those women, they rooted for me. They were like, yeah, you go out there and you're gonna rock it. You're gonna do amazing. Like I needed that. The really cool thing about United World is that the night before competition, we do a really big circle. We have a pajama party and we all get in a circle and everyone says something encouraging
okay.
just to help us get into for pageant tomorrow, the show tomorrow. And literally, when I say there was no dry eye in the room, everybody was bawling, everyone was hugging. It was so sweet. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then when it's my turn, I was like, first of all, I've never been around a group of beautiful women who are this kind. Thank you all for just being so kind. You don't
Love
get that,
that.
you
No,
know?
you don't in this world, unfortunately. Not as often as we should.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So you won that. When was
So,
that?
so that was last year. That was the first year. So that was 23. And then wait, yeah, 23. We're in 24 now. And then so the years run how they're because it's September to September. So it was
Okay.
like 22. Yeah. So into 23. And that was that year. And then because of how I felt and just the encouragement and everything and just what United World meant, I was like, I'll give it another shot. This year, I was able to come back more confident, more prepared, without a boot. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give it all I got this time. And I did. And I won. And I was
That's
so
amazing.
happy. It was just an amazing moment. And then to just the support that I got from the other women in my division, it was really beautiful. Like everyone was so happy for me. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, you won. It wasn't any of that. And even the year before, when the woman who won, when I had the boot, again, we all rallied around her. We were so proud of her. You're going to rock it. This is amazing. That kind of it. And so I'm still connecting with the women that were in my division with me. We're actually doing a Christmas give back together, all of us.
Fun.
Yeah, it's of course everyone wants to win, but it's also just we're going to support whoever does win, and because we're sisters in this at that point. So it was really beautiful.
I love that. Now, tell me about your nonprofit. So,
Yes.
how did that get started? When did you start it? Tell me about what you do, and let's talk about that.
Yeah, so my nonprofit is Royalty Houston. And so it got started through pageantry. I was already doing like community service and things like that. As like I was telling you, throughout my years, I've always been like giving back, just doing things. Even in college, I would do give backs and things like that. When I was probably one of the struggling college students myself, but I'd be planning things for us to like give back to the community and all of that stuff. So community service and those kind of things have always been in my heart and been a passion for me. But I never thought about making a nonprofit and doing more. So I was Mrs. Southern States before I was Mrs. United World. And my platform was advocating for underrepresented youth and women. So I'm really big on, again, kids that look like me, helping them to expose them to opportunities out there, help them to dream big, because a lot of times we limit our dreams, especially if we're not exposed to certain things. We don't know what's out there. So it's exposing them and it's helping them to dream big. So empowering them to dream big and then educating them on what steps do you need to take to get there. So if it's aligning them with a mentor, helping them with internships, those kind of things, just giving them tools and resources, all of that. And then the other side of that is women's voices. Now being a wife and a mom, making sure that I keep my voice is really important. And then empowering other women to do the same. Because as I mentioned earlier, a lot of times when we become wives and moms, we really lose ourselves. Like we're just a wife and a mom. We're so-and-so's wife, we're so-and-so's mom. You know what I mean? And but we still have so much inside of us that we want to get out. If it's business, if it's entrepreneurship, all these different things. And I really wanted to help women to see their potential still and can make connections so that they can do those things. I really feel like I'm a connector of anything. I'm really great at being creative, coming up with initiatives and connecting people. So that became my platform as Mrs. Southern States. And I did that a lot of work. I connected with schools, other organizations. And throughout my reign that year, I realized that at the end of it, I realized there was so much I still wanted to do. I wanted to impact, I wanted to have the freedom to impact my way, but still those communities. And so I felt like the best way to do that was to have my own nonprofit. I still help and work with some of those other nonprofits that I did the previous year, but it's really great to be able to go in and create my own initiatives myself too, and then go out and seek funding for them and do that. So the experience has been amazing. I pray that I'm able to do, and I know that it's coming because it really is my passion. I work really hard at it. So I do a lot of things. So now with Royalty Houston, our goal is to empower, expose, and educate those two, so youth and women. So we do, like I said, we do empowerment workshops. We go into schools. I do a lot of virtual things with folks overseas. I have a program coming up in India, things like that. And then also we do a lot of drives as well. Last year, we were able to collect 200 toys for kids in homeless shelters. We did a hygiene drive. We do meals for weekends and holidays. And that is something that really impacted me because in Houston, we have a lot of food deserts.
Okay.
Where folks live in their area, there's not a grocery store with them, a certain aisles. There's gas station are probably the closest place for them to get food. And think about having to get your grocery from a gas station, right? It's not much there. And
Not
so,
very healthy.
yeah, not very healthy either, right?
Yeah.
All of those things. And what we do is we help to provide meals for the weekend and for the holidays when they can't go to school. Because a lot of those kids, because they live in food deserts, what they depend on is getting their food from school. So when schools close on the weekends, what do? When you're out for your holiday, what do? These kids, whenever everyone else is excited about Thanksgiving, they're not excited about Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And so I was working with an organization in Houston to do that. And now I'm working on getting my own partnership so that we can continue to do that. So that one really close to my heart because, wow, it just does so much for the kids.
Yeah. Oh, that's a lot. So what is the best way if anyone listening wants to help with your nonprofit? What is the best way that they can help you guys out?
Yeah. So donation drives. So either partnering with us, I'm happy to help you organize it, or you can donate towards ours, those type of things. And of course, monetary donations go a long way because we have a lot of initiatives. So that would be helpful too. And you can find me at royaltyhouston.org.
Okay. And so if somebody wanted to donate money or whatever, then that would be the place to go to do that.
Yes.
Okay. I'll link that in the show notes for sure for anybody who wants to help out with that. And I think you said something too about, hold on.
No worries.
Did
The
you say
nonprofit, is it?
Did you say you do some like coaching at all or?
It's empowerment workshops that I do.
Okay.
And so I do that. Yeah. So I do that for senior girls at Title I schools. And it's like career planning. So in my professional career, I do professional development and diversity at a law firm. So I always like to say, especially because I work with a lot of lawyers and baby lawyers at that, I teach you what law school didn't.
Okay.
So really teaching you like how to be a lawyer in that sense, not really argue cases, but like your professional development, like how you're going to build your career, that kind of a thing. So I took those skills and so I scale it back and I go into Title I schools and I help seniors and juniors do that. So we set out a plan to really develop what they want to be. Like you said, at 18, it's hard. You don't know. It's so many ideas. So we start with a personality test, right? So if you're into art, that kind of a thing, we try to build it out. What kind of careers can you do with that? Graphic design. And then just an example. And if you were to choose graphic design, what do you need to major? What is that going to look like when you graduate school? So we just build it out for them. And then we talk about everything from resume writing, from interview skills, those kind of soft skills that you'll need in a professional environment, even in college. Some colleges require interviews, things like that, professional wear, how you're supposed to look, all of that.
I
It's
love
really, really
that.
impactful. Yeah, the kids really love it, especially for those who maybe in their family, they haven't seen someone go to college. And that was something for me, right? Because I'm a first generation college graduate. So I hadn't seen anyone actually complete college and then use their degree. It was really impactful for me when I met a high school senior who everyone's talking about going to college, all these things. And I asked her what her plan was, and she didn't see a need into going to college because she was like, I don't know why to go to college. She's never seen anyone be successful going to college. She just didn't know like the importance of it. And for her, it was leaving high school and going to work at her like neighborhood store, let's say Walmart. That's what her mom did. That's what her grandma did. That's what they did. And so that's what she said that she was going to do after she graduated. But I asked her, is that really what you want to do? And it wasn't, but she was like, I don't know what else there is for me. And so I was able to really talk to her, and we still talk to this day. So she's going to community college now. She's just doing general studies. And I thought that was great for her because that's still for you to get your foot in the door. You're in this college environment, right? So you can see what other kids are doing. You're seeing what's offered there, and you can really just take your time and build out your career. Your future doesn't have to look like your family's. You're your own
Yes.
person. And so that's something that I really also instill in the empowerment workshops. What I still instill to the students is you have the power to build your own future.
And these kids need to hear that for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
That's amazing. I love that. I'm glad that you do that. And then
Yes.
you also mentioned in here that you collaborate with organizations like She's the First, Empowered Girls of Africa, and Small World Nepal. Tell me about
Yes.
those organizations and what you did with them, because I love to travel and I have been to a lot of those countries. So I would love for you to share how you work with people in other countries, kids in other countries.
Yeah, She's the First is an organization that works in a lot of developing countries, right? A lot of countries where there's childhood marriage, where the girls aren't getting educated about their bodies even. So like personal hygiene and menstrual and things like that. So I work with them to deliver empowerment workshops. Sometimes there is a language barrier, so we always have a translator to help with
Oh, good.
that. And then I also always send items for the girls, which they love, like whether it's backpacks with school supplies, because a lot of times in the poorer countries, the girls aren't allowed to go to school, or they're, for instance, in one situation where there was a family, and I think it was one daughter, and then they had three boys. So the family had enough money for the boys to go, but she couldn't go to school. And that really broke my heart. And so we helped to raise funds for them so that these girls can go to school so they can get education. So I help out with their educational programs, funding for that. I also do empowerment workshops for them virtually. So that's how I'm working with all of these organizations. They're really amazing organizations. These girls, it's a difference from America and over there. They are so grateful. And it's really a blessing to work with them.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I know just from my traveling, like seeing the enthusiasm that the kids in other countries have for school, for learning, for bettering themselves. And we take it so for granted here. I did
Yes.
too. I'm like, I don't want to go to school today. I hate school. But we are also so lucky to have
Yes, so
the
privileged.
opportunities that we do. And especially as women in other countries. I just recently went to the Middle East I went to Pakistan and Oman, and yeah, to see the differences culturally in the women there and how we are here, it's wild. The world is a very big place and it's
Yes.
very different, and we really take for granted how lucky we are here.
Yeah, that is the word I was looking for. Definitely taking it for granted. Yeah, because you get a lot of that, right? It's a lot of us here in America. We have these opportunities to do so many things, programs and that they don't have there. If they just had a glimpse of that, they would be so grateful. And they are, even just like going through like workbooks with them. They're so happy. They're asking questions. They want more. I always send more workbooks, things like that for them to
I
go
love
through.
that.
And yeah, it's great just what one workshop can do for a classroom of girls, and it's just beautiful. And that is something that I treasure a lot. And I hope that I'll be so lucky to go in person soon. So hopefully that's one of the goals on my bucket list for my ring.
That would be amazing. I hope that for you so much too, because
Thank
I
you.
will say to see all of the cultures and stuff in person I go on these trips and then I'm so humbled when I go on these trips and I look at the American culture so differently. And then I come back and I totally get wrapped up in it all again. Right? Like
Right?
it's so hard because that's the world we live in. So
Yeah, definitely humbling for sure. So I can definitely resonate that. These girls want so much just to, like I said, just to go through the workbook, just to learn like simple things. And then for us to just have programs and all kind of things that the kids have access to, but they don't do it. Even I learned a little bit about how privileged we are in America with my husband because he's Nigerian.
oh,
And
okay.
yeah, their culture is just totally different the way he grew up and even like with financial aid and things like that. Although my parents couldn't pay for college like out of pocket, at least I had access to like financial aid and these different grant programs and things like that, which they don't have over there. I remember with him, it was like all the African guys would be like in a little apartment, like some sleeping on the floors, like bunk beds, just because they just want to go to college. They just want to learn, you know what I mean? So that too just opens your eyes to, and they work really hard at their education too.
Yeah.
Like they study really hard. Like they want to do well because they know this is my only shot. I'm
Yeah.
over here. I've got to make the best of it.
Absolutely. Oh, I love the work that you're doing, and you are such a beautiful human inside and out,
Oh,
truly.
thank you so
I
much.
just have really enjoyed chatting with you so much. Again, all the ways to get in touch with you, I will put in the show notes. So if anybody
Yes,
listening wants to help out with the nonprofit or anything else, reach out
yes,
to Jessica.
absolutely.
I'm sure you would be totally fine with that. Yeah. So thank you so much for this conversation. It has been so beautiful
Thank
and for
you.
sharing everything that you have. And do you have any parting words?
Yeah, it has been amazing to chat with you as well and to open up and share my story, the triumphs and the challenges and that sort of thing. And I hope that it's been inspiring to someone. One thing I always like to say is if I can, you can too. I have a voice so that you can have one. And I just hope that you listening to this will help you to stand in your true self and to go through the steps to really finding yourself too. Because I think that a lot of times we don't do that. A lot of people, like, it's hard to say, be authentically you if you don't know who you are. I hope that you would just take the steps to do that, to really spend time with yourself, understand your likes, your simple things, so your likes, your dislikes, and how you learn and that kind of a thing, because that's really going to be the most empowering thing for yourself and for your journey.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for coming on. And I don't know, maybe we'll have you back again. I've had a few repeat guests and I really loved this conversation.
Oh
So
yeah, I would love to.
keep doing the work that you're doing because I think it's amazing. And thank you so much again. And thank you everybody for listening. We will see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you enjoyed our conversation and found value in the stories shared, please consider following us on your preferred podcast platform. Your ratings and reviews make a huge difference. They help us reach more listeners and continue bringing you engaging, insightful content. We appreciate your support and would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Until next time, keep listening, growing, and sharing.